Hello, I'm Travis Luther, president of Lawfather, and welcome to Lawfather Legal News. Being convicted of driving under the influence can have far-reaching consequences for a person's life and career. While public awareness and law enforcement programs protect thousands of lives each year, the methods used to detect whether or not a person is actually driving drunk are not always as precise as most of us would expect. The two primary technologies law enforcement officers use to determine blood alcohol content are roadside breathalyzer tests and blood tests. With Veterans Day this month, here with us to explain some of the differences between these two methods of recording blood alcohol level is Colorado DUI attorney and U.S. Army veteran Michael Carter of Carter Boyle LLC. Mr. Carter, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Luther.
So tell me, first off, in your mind, what is the most important thing someone needs to know when they're facing a DUI charge?
Well, the first thing you need to know and the first thing you need to understand is there are going to be two separate sets of consequences for being charged with a DUI, one criminal and one civil. So the first thing that you need to do is contact the Department of Motor Vehicles and request a hearing to protect your civil rights, or actually your administrative rights. You have 7 days from the date of the actual first contact with the DUI or with the officer to actually request that hearing. The next thing that you need to understand is while you're actually in the midst of the DUI, you're going to be given two opportunities. You're going to be given an opportunity to take a blood test or a breath test. The consequences of whether you take a blood test or a breath test are different. But one thing that you also need to understand is that when you first obtained your driver's license, you signed something stating that if you were ever in a position where an officer requested information regarding your blood or your breath, that you would provide that. So civilly or administratively, you do not have to, criminally, you do not have to give the officer a blood test or a breath test. But understand that administratively, if you do not, you will lose your license for a year.
Right. Right. And I know probably most people think that the breathalyzer is the only test available. Does an officer have to inform you at the time of the DUI stop that you do have the option for both?
Absolutely, Travis. In a jurisdiction that has both, you have to be given the option. The officer must ask you whether or not you would like the blood test. The officer also must ask you whether you would like the breath test.
Okay.
The main difference between the blood and the breath test is going to be the accuracy of the sample taken. With a breath test, you're going to be taking the jurisdictions in Colorado use something called the Intoxilizer 5000. The Intoxilizer 5000 is a very accurate machine, but it's not as accurate as a blood test. With the Intoxilizer 5000, you're not going to be given the opportunity to get a sample retested, but the sample may be higher or lower, and they have to give you a chart of exactly what percentage this machine is above or below the normal, and they actually have a normal reading every time that this machine is put into use. They have to check it, they have to calibrate it, and you'll be given that reading. But understand that that is not going to be as accurate as possible.
Once you take the breathalyzer test, can you go back and say, you know what, actually that seems off from how much I think I've had to drink. I think I'd like to have the blood test.
You know, that's a very good question, Travis. And I go back to what I first explained to you. If you refuse to take a blood or breath test, which is your right, you can have your license suspended by the Department of Motor Vehicles for a year. There's an interesting quirk where in case law is stated that they only have to give you the option once. So if you say, I want the breathalyzer, you get halfway through the breathalyzer, you're like, you know what, I'd rather do something else. I'd rather do the blood test. They don't have to give it to you. And if you say, well, no, I want the next option, that can be seen as a refusal, and you can lose your license for that as well.
Wow. Wow. Do you know anything about the average cost associated with a DUI?
Driving under the influence, your first offense, your fines and costs are going to run you between $1,500 and $2,000. That's not going to include if you are convicted, that's not going to include the alcohol treatment. You're probably going to get level 2 alcohol treatment. That's not going to include the Mothers Against Drunk Driving classes and the probation supervision fee. So on average, these are just the fines and costs issued to you by the state. If you get a DUI, you're looking at $1,500, $2,000, and maybe even more.
Wow. Mr. Carter, I know your office is in Cherry Creek. Do you offer free case consultations for people who are concerned about a DUI charge that they have?
What we do is we do a 30-minute consultation, free 30-minute consultation. What I ask is that you bring in all of the paperwork that you obtain from the DMV, from the officer, and from any type of pre-trial services that you're doing. That way, I can give you a full, access or accounting of what I think is going to happen in the case.
Okay. All right. Well, if you have been charged with a DUI or any related offense in Colorado, I would encourage you to contact Michael Carter today at 303-501-1825, or you can visit him online at carterboyle.com. Thanks again, Michael, for coming and joining us. If you have a legal question in Colorado, you can visit our attorneys online at www.lawfather.com or call our toll-free confidential law line at 855-LAW-5280. That's 855-LAW-5280. Michael, again, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Travis.